Imagine you're wading through a murky river in the Amazon. The water is thick, brown, and you can't see your own feet. You're careful. You scan the surface for movement. You watch where you step. And then, without anything ever touching you, without so much as a fin brushing your leg, your muscles lock up and you collapse face first into the water. You never got bitten. You never got grabbed. You weren't even close enough to touch the thing that just took you down. So how exactly did something manage to hurt you without ever laying a finger or a fin on you? To understand this, you first have to understand that the electric eel isn't even playing by the same rules as literally everything else in the water. And weirdly enough, it's not even an eel. I know this seems like a weird place to start, but stick with me because this actually matters. True eels are a specific order of fish that includes things like moray eels and conger eels. Electric eels are not related to them at all. They're actually a type of knife fish, which is a completely different lineage that's more closely related to catfish than to anything that looks like it. They just happen to have the same long snake-like body shape because that shape happens to work really well for a very specific reason we're about to get into. So if it's not an eel, what is it? Well, it's basically a living battery wrapped in fish skin. And that's not really an exaggeration. Around 80% of an electric eel's entire body is made up of specialized cells called electrocytes. Normal muscle cells contract when they get a signal from the nervous system. Electrocytes used to be muscle cells too, but over millions of years, evolution stripped out their ability to contract and turned them into something else entirely. A cell whose only job is to store and release a tiny electrical charge. On their own, a single electrocyte produces basically nothing. We're talking about a fraction of a volt. But an electric eel doesn't have one electrocyte. It has somewhere around 6,000 of them, stacked end-to-end in long columns that run almost the entire length of its body. And here's the important part. They're all wired in series, just like batteries stacked inside a flashlight. When the eel's brain sends the signal, every single one of those 6,000 cells fires at exactly the same moment. And when you stack 6,000 tiny voltages together all at once, you don't get a tiny shock anymore. You get up to 600 volts. For context, a standard wall outlet in your house is around 120 volts. This animal can produce 5 times that in water using nothing but its own cells. So we've established it can produce a genuinely dangerous amount of electricity, but that still doesn't explain the whole point of this video. How does it actually hit you without touching you? This is where most people get it wrong. They assume the eel has to be in direct contact like a hand touching a live wire. But water isn't like a wire. Water, especially the murky fresh water these eels live in, is an incredible conductor of electricity. When the eel discharges, it's not sending a shock through one single point of contact. It's turning the entire surrounding area of water into an electrical field. Every single muscle within range of that field, yours included, gets hit by the same electrical signal at once. And this is the actual mechanism that makes it so dangerous. Your muscles move because your nervous system sends them tiny electrical signals, telling them when to contract and release. The eel's discharge basically hijacks that system from the outside. It floods your muscles with an electrical signal so much stronger than your own nervous system signal that your muscles have no choice but to obey it instead. This is called tetanus, and it means every muscle in range locks into a rigid, uncontrollable contraction all at the same time. You can't swim, you can't kick, you can't even really move your arms to keep your head above water. And this is the actual danger with electric eels. It's rarely the voltage itself that kills a person. It's the fact that your entire body locks up while you happen to be in water, and drowning does the rest. But if this thing is basically a walking or swimming taser, how does it not electrocute itself every single time it fires? This seems like it should be a massive design flaw. Wouldn't it also be sitting in the exact same electrical field it just created? And the answer is genuinely clever. The eel's own vital organs, its heart, its brain, its actual functional tissue are all packed into a small compartment near the front of its body, and that compartment is wrapped in fatty, insulating tissue that acts almost like the rubber coating on a real wire. The rest of the eel, the part that's almost entirely electrocytes, is essentially expendable battery casing. It can handle being inside the field because its own vital systems are shielded from it. It's basically built its own body like a piece of electrical equipment, insulated core exposed battery pack. Now, you'd think an animal packing 600 volts would just sit back and let the water do the work. But electric eels don't just release one big blast and hope for the best. They actually have multiple distinct types of discharge. And this is where the hunting behavior gets genuinely disturbing. Electric eels can release low-voltage pulses that work almost like radar, sensing movement and location in murky water where their eyesight is basically useless. Then, once they've located prey, they can switch to rapid-fire high-voltage pulses, sometimes hundreds of pulses per second, which is fast enough to completely override the prey's nervous system before it even has a chance to react and swim away. But the most unsettling part is a hunting behavior scientists only properly documented fairly recently. Electric eels have been observed curling their bodies around prey, which physically doubles the strength of the electrical field hitting the target, since the prey is now surrounded by the eel's electrocyte columns on both sides instead of just one. And in shallow water, they've even been recorded leaping partially out of the water to press their chin directly against the target, like a submerged animal or, in lab conditions, a human arm, delivering a concentrated shock directly into it rather than letting the charge dissipate through open water. This isn't some random defensive flailing. It's a targeted escalating attack strategy from an animal that has multiple settings, depending on what it's actually trying to accomplish. So with all of this, the actual question everyone wants answered: can an electric eel actually kill an adult human? Realistically, a single shock from an electric eel is extremely unlikely to kill a healthy adult outright. 600 volts sounds terrifying, and it is genuinely dangerous. But the amperage, which is really what determines lethality in an electrical shock, is relatively low compared to something like a power line. The real danger, and the reason there are documented human deaths linked to these animals, comes from repeated shocks in a short window. If a person is shocked multiple times in a row, especially in water, the body doesn't get a chance to recover between hits. Repeated tetanus can exhaust the heart, disrupt its rhythm, or simply keep a person paralyzed long enough that they drown, even in shallow water they could normally stand up in. There are also documented cases in the Amazon of people going into cardiac arrest after multiple shocks in quick succession, particularly in situations where a person stumbled into a group of eels defending themselves. And electric eels are almost never aggressive toward humans by choice. Every recorded serious incident involves either accidental contact in murky water or a person disturbing the eel directly. So circle back to that murky river you were wading through. You never got close enough to touch anything. You never even saw it coming, but the water around you did all the work the eel needed. It didn't need teeth. It didn't need to grab you. It just needed the water you were standing in and a nervous system built to run on electricity. The exact same thing yours runs on too. An animal that isn't even really an eel, built almost entirely out of modified muscle tissue, that forgot how to move and learned how to store electricity instead, turned the water itself into the weapon. And that's honestly the scariest part of this whole thing. It's not the bite, it's not the size. It's the fact that it never even had to touch you at all. Thanks for watching, and if you want to see the video about why the ocean's deadliest predator refuses to kill us, check it out here.